welcome back. Sorry about that. Talking about de-Christianization during the increasing radicalization here of the French Revolution. So priests were encouraged to marry. Notre Dame was redesignated the Temple of Reason. There was the Judeo-Christian calendar was revamped starting on October 5th of 1793. The years were no longer numbered from the birth of Christ. Instead, they were numbered from September 22nd of 1792, the day the French Republic was proclaimed. So when the calendar was adopted, it was almost already 2 years old in effect. Um, and essentially it was 12 months based on 30 days in each month. There were 3 weeks, each consisting of 10 days. Um, the French people were permitted to rest every 10th day. This eliminated Saturdays and Sundays. Religious holidays were not observed. Instead, new holidays were kind of invented, um, uh, marking the revolution. So, most notable of these revolutionary holidays was the 5 leftover days in the 365-day calendar, or 6 days in a leap year, where there would be this prolonged um, festival celebrating the revolution itself, the celebration of liberty, equality, and fraternity. What's interesting is that as a result of this has kind of played a factor in why and how the French people were able to um, defend themselves and kind of face off against these pretty formidable forces that were, coming together across Europe to, you know, try and quash the French Revolution. Um, and overall, the number of holidays observed was cut nearly in half. So it just kind of really helped to uh, reinforce or help promote the mobilization of French society in this kind of total war effort. The calendar even did that as well. It should be noted that the calendar itself was unpopular and it didn't last long. Napoleon, during his reign, abandoned the calendar on January 1st of 1806. So it lasted, what is that, lesson? Lasted, I guess, little over a decade. The decline of the Committee for Public Safety uh, began to really kind of the leadership began to try and rein in the terror itself. This was done by way of more centralized control in the country. In 1794, the committee cracked down on the Paris Commune and political radicals. Essentially, it was an effort to suppress the people who gave the Committee for Public Safety and the National Convention its political power and legitimacy, saying, even for the committee, they were saying, look, this has gotten out of hand, this has gone too far. Also, by this time, the external, that is to say, foreign threats to France began to recede. So the state emergency, or the state of emergency, had begun to pass. Robespierre, however, continued calling for the cleansing and the purging of the Republic. And again, Robespierre was the head of the Committee on Public Safety, or for Public Safety. And therefore, a political faction within the National Convention actually united to end Robespierre's rule, and Robespierre himself fell victim to the guillotine being executed on July 28th of 1794. And this really marks the end of the Reign of Terror, but not necessarily the end of the Revolution, which we'll get into in the next lecture when we talk about Napoleon and then get us through the Napoleonic era. To bring things close for this time being, however, the National Convention and the Committee for Public Safety, though bloody and unstable and kind of operating through those two mechanisms, they had been the institutions that had succeeded in maintaining the revolution. They repulsed foreign threats by mobilizing the entire country, something that was not necessarily really seen before in European history, and mobilizing its population as well. I mean, that everyone was going to be putting forth effort to see to France's successful resolution of this state of emergency. And that was going to have profound effects on the future conduct of war itself in the eyes of the Western world. That this became more and more of the model of how wars were going to be fought. This idea of total warfare. When you go to war, you are going to mobilize all sectors of society, the economy, manufacturing, every aspect in order to see through to victory. They also, or these organs, the Committee on Public Safety and the National Convention, also repulsed domestic counter-revolutionary plots around the country. So it was pretty effective in doing all that, and doing that all at the same time. What's also interesting about the French Revolution, and specifically this transition that begins to take place, is that it really becomes the standard. The French Revolution becomes the standard for revolution in Western civilization. The upending of the social order here, the drift, the movement towards the quintessential people's rebellion, was something that was new. It was something that was, in the eyes of some, dangerous, and it was something that was, in the eyes of others, inspirational. With regard to the American Revolution, it had been a revolution led largely by the gentry, so it probably had its best parallel and kind of could be most readily identified with the early stages of the French Revolution, where it's led by this kind of elite core of people, mostly male, that are trying to lead a revolution while maintaining some semblance of social order. So it's the elite, the learned, the landed members of society that are going to do that. Okay. The French Revolution starts out in that same kind of mold, but when we begin to move into the the Republican radicalization of the French Revolution, we move into the Reign of Terror. This is where it is in the hands of the people themselves that the revolution begins to you know be guided by those individuals of society. And in the eyes of many, including members of American society as well, that became dangerous. That became something that was upsetting, and you know something that needed to be opposed. And that's why the French Revolution serves as really the origin for the basically the two-party system in the United States. Now, I'm not talking about Democrats and Republicans today as parties, but I'm talking about kind of Federalists and Democratic Republicans, or what were also known as Jeffersonian Republican, Jeffersonian um, Democrats as well. That these two parties begin to uh, move. They begin to break apart and form their own identities, largely as a result of what's happening in France. And the Federalists are more hesitant to support the more radical expressions of revolution, whereas Thomas Jefferson and his kind of political allies are, more uh, readily accept the bloodletting that was taking place, saying that this was, when you keep a society uh, oppressed for the hundreds of years that the French monarchy had been in place, and been in place largely to an absolute degree, then when you change that, when you begin to try and revolt against that, then the potential for this kind of upwelling of outright, uh, mob rule, or purging of society is going to become more likely. And so, some like Thomas Jefferson and people who thought similarly believed that this was kind of a natural byproduct, a natural kind of evolution of the revolution that just needed to work itself out. So this is, this is something that can be debated today. And in many respects, the French Revolution becomes an inspiration to revolutionaries looking uh, to fuel their own revolutionary either ideologies or revolutionary zeal, revolutionary aims. Um, the it becomes one where the concepts of trying to achieve and implement universal liberty, equality, and fraternity are going to be held in high regard by societies all around the world. That it would become the the kind of modus operandi for revolutions in places like Africa, for other areas of the world that wanted to cast off colonial, kinds of authority, who wanted to try and create a more uh, classless, you might say, or egalitarian, or excuse me, well, egalitarian, but also kind of a more of a society that was equal in all respects, and everybody was free in order to pursue their own interests, or but do so to an equal degree, essentially. Um, it's also where we get our modern concepts of the ideas of the ideological spectrum themselves. That you can see that the French Revolution is a microcosm for uh, revolutionaries, typically identified on the left, or I should say on the left, where the people in the on the left side of the spectrum are for popular movements or the people, and people on the right are more align themselves with social hierarchy, with social status or aristocracy in many cases. Uh, so that is going to be that entire spectrum that we kind of try and grapple with even today is rooted here in 1789 and the early 1790s in the French Revolution. And that's the reason why this revolution, the French Revolution, is the uh, catalyst for having all of these kind of reverberating effects across so much of world history. That's the reason why I've taken so much time to talk about it. Hope it's been helpful. I'll pick up with Napoleon, get us through this early transition from late 18th into early 19th century. I know time is getting short in the semester, but this is pretty important material. So let me stop here, and I will pick up soon with, like I said, with Napoleon, and then we'll get into providing kind of a more global overview of the 19th century, kind of hit the key highlights so that we can get into the 20th century in the final weeks of the course, talk about the world wars, and get as close to present day as possible. All right, thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.